What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 100, now officially a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-host Roffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Excited to be celebrating this milestone with the both of you, and I got a few fun things to talk about tonight too. So looking forward to that as well.
Man, it kind of sneaks up on you. Like 100 episodes, that's a lot of podcasting. But yeah, very happy to be here with you guys talking everything over. And yeah, we're also gonna have a little look back and do some reviewing of our reviews for the recent expansion.
Yeah, 100 episodes. I still remember when this thing started, and then I realized that I was terrible at talking by myself. And so, luckily, I got these two amazing co-hosts, and it's been a blast. Almost 2 years of podcasting and talking about Wild with you guys. Like Corb mentioned, we're gonna be talking about some new stuff, looking forward, and then also taking a little bit of a look back on this expansion. Very fitting for our 100th episode. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. We don't have that many new cards to talk about this week, but that's because we're going to have like 30 to talk about next week. So, balance things out. So this week we've only got 5. I guess technically 6, but really only 5 to talk about. So let's start. We've got some more locations. Let's start with the Paladin location. It's a 2-mana location called Great Hall. 3 durability. Set a minion's attack and health to 3. So very reminiscent of the card, I believe it's called Dark Conviction, which is a 2-mana spell that sets a minion's attack and health to 3. So this is just that, but, you get to use it 3 times. It's not a spell, if that matters, but seems pretty strong. Maybe some even Paladin synergy there. Maybe even worth it in some Dude Paladin.
Yeah, I think it's probably a strong effect. I think Dude Paladin is where it's aiming. We've been seeing some Dude synergies. The problem is that like though both even Paladin and Dude Paladin in Wild are going to be pretty tight lists. So like you have a lot of good cards in those decks, and I don't know if this necessarily will make the cut. Just my biggest concern is the every other turn aspect of locations, which kind of slow them down pretty significantly, and in a format like Wild is oftentimes, I don't want to say it's a death sentence, but like this comes down on 2, you get the full effect of it by what, like you play it 2 4 6 turn 6. That's like that's kind of slow for our format. It does have the ability to slow down games as well, but I think that often you want a card that's good on your side of the board with those types of decks. So we'll see.
I really like it in Even Paladin specifically. There is kind of the cute little thing where if you are using it proactively, the cooldown isn't that bad because the way the hero power works, you're probably going to be weaving it in every second turn anyway. So, it doesn't really matter that much. But I really like it, like you just play this out in the early game. You can use it proactively on 3. And then, there are going to be things like warlocks around that all of a sudden they can't develop mountain giants and things into it. I don't know. The Dark Conviction, obviously not a good card, but pretty decent effect. And being able to triple up on that seems kind of very, very powerful. So... yeah, I really like it. I'm just kind of curious whether it's more than just an even Paladin card, and whether it can actually kind of make the cut in, things like just the aggro attacks Paladin. Like, it's very, very flexible, both proactively and defensively, so I think it's great.
Yeah, I think one of the things we used to do with this card is, like, you take a value trade and then you, like, heal your minion, and it works really, really nicely with Divine Shield. I know, Rolf, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I think that with regard to like the lining up with the dude, I would tend to want, like Meow said, want to use this either before or after an attack goes through, just so that you're like immediately getting impact of it. Because it'd feel pretty bad if you're up against that warlock and you just use this effect and they like drain soul that minion, and then you're left with nothing on the board on the backswing. So it's like, yeah, I think that it has definitely some potential, but I think that intentionally so. I think that a lot of the locations are pretty vanilla, and like vanilla in Wild is hard to like make a lot of use of.
Yeah,
I do wonder as well, just to throw it back. I wonder if it makes the eggs better in, aggro Paladin. Like, eggs haven't been amazing, but it's a really nice activator for Nerubian, so that's a small upside as well.
Yeah, no, I think that like that's when I'm a little bit more sold on, because that's when like Breakfast Paladin used to be a legitimate thing. Like Conviction getting cut down, it was a big hit to that. Something like the 4-mana minion is just a little bit too slow in the format now, so this could be a good substitute for the job that was doing.
Yep. All right, so pretty high on Great Hall here. How about the next location, Castle Kennels? So this is a hunter location. 2 mana, 3 durability. Give a friendly minion +2 attack. If it's a beast, give it rush. So I saw a lot of chatter about, maybe slotting this into the new spicy, the Copper Hunter or the Beast Hunter that's kind of spreading around ladder, as just +6 attack, give 3 things rush, over the span of the game, in that deck. How are you guys feeling about it there, or maybe just elsewhere in Hunter?
I think this lines up almost identically to Great Hall in terms of power level. I think that they're both pretty high quality cards. They have the same mana cost, the same durability. This has a little bit more immediate impact, because you can give something rush that wasn't able to attack before. I think that it maybe is worth a look into the Copper Beast Hunter, just because early game for an aggro deck, there are a lot of situations where you are holding cards. Like, you're not just jamming a Buzzard or a Beaver on turn 2 and saying go in most situations. You're looking to set things up, and this helps you do that. It gives your minions rush, which is important for ramping up that Beaver and getting more damage to your opponent's face. So I think it has some potential, but I think it's like Great Hall. I think it had that's like the knee jerk hit, but I think it has some potential. Like, 2 mana deal 6 is pretty good if you have any minions, let alone beasts. Like, you don't have to buff a beast either, so you're not limited to that. So it's just like it's damage. Like, I think it seems like a pretty reasonable card. I think between the two of them, I mean, one of those is probably the best location we've seen so far, and I would lean towards the Castle Kennels myself.
Yeah, I'm excited for this card for 2 reasons. One, obviously, a good card. Like, it's good. Just very splashable. Kind of opens up some interesting options in Hunter that you probably wouldn't have considered before. Something like Samuro is like really, really strong with this. As a card that you wouldn't conventionally think of in Hunter, but maybe we can, even play Samuro and something like that. And also, I'm just excited because this sort of indicates beast support. And, I'm a big fan of the beast decks right now, Beast Hunter, so I like that if this is the direction that we're going. Big fan of that.
Cool. So starting it off really, really strong here, and then moving into the main character, the main guy that this whole expansion is based off of, Sire Denathrius, 10 mana, neutral legendary. He starts as a 10/10, lifesteal, battlecry, deal 5 damage amongst enemies. So basically, Cthulhu battlecry, OG Cthulhu. Endlessly infuse 1, deal 1 more. So a lot of text, but basically how this reads is it's 10 mana, 10/10 with lifesteal, with a Cthulhu battlecry, and for every friendly minion that dies while this is in your hand, he then deals 1 more damage. I think the kind of obvious home in Wild is in, as weird as it is, like the ramp druids. I feel like the decks that are running Floop's Glorious Gloop, Scales of Onyxia, and what is it called, Flipper Friends. Basically that style of deck that's already running stuff like Onyxia, Raid Boss Onyxia. That's probably where the obvious home for this is, but does seem like a pretty sweet card in general, though, for the main character of the expansion.
Dare I say, Luna's Pocket Galaxy Reno Mage is another option as well.
No, you do not dare say.
Am I allowed to throw that in there? In all seriousness, like, you don't want to pay 10 mana for this, so I think that those are like the places where you do kind of have to look, right? Like, Yeah, like, your options are pretty limited because you you need to not pay 10 mana for this because well, for a lot of reasons. Also, the issue that I see with it is that it has to be in hand to ramp up, which is like that's just gonna be worse than New Cthulhu in most situations already, right? So if you're playing that Druid deck, you can't exactly wait until you have Scale of Onyxia or the Flipper Frenzy. You need to play those cards when it is like time to play those cards. You can't wait for your Sire Denathrius to come into hand so that you can ramp them up. So I don't foresee this being a super big powerhouse, but it's a really cool card, and I'm certainly going to be trying it both in those decks as well as in probably just like a token Demon Hunter. I like making stuff die in Demon Hunter, and there are a lot of other synergies with that as well. So it's like it's at home there. I had decent success with a slower like Renathal Demon Hunter recently that is ripping some Death Rattle stuff and had some less defense than I would normally be running. So like I don't know, 40 health opens up some fun shenanigans, but like also makes it harder to draw your Denathria. So like there's weird interaction there. Overall though, like yeah, it's the main character of the expansion. It's got to be a big bomb. So I think it's cool card. I think that dealing 5 is just like unacceptably bad, and like the decks that the decks that want to play it can't pay the full mana cost for it, and the decks that can pay the full mana cost for it like have better options. Is the reality of it.
I'm gonna zig to your zag. I don't like this card. I think it's kind of lame. Like I wanted something that was a bit more interesting. For the main character of the set. I don't know. This doesn't really excite me. I think it's just because we've seen this type of flavor like a lot. For this kind of 10 drop, whether it is the Cthulhu or like even Mordrash is something that feels very, very similar. So to me, like, yeah, he's a big bomb and that's kind of the effect, but I wish we got something maybe a little different. As for like competitive play stuff, I think the one home is probably the Renathal Alignment Druid that's been popping up. That deck has actually looked very, very promising. It's not like a pure for anyone that isn't like aware, the Renathal alignment decks run things like Molten Giant, and they're not entirely focused on just like turbo comboing. They run things like Neptulon and those kind of cards. It's very similar to Standard, where the alignment is kind of just an excuse to ramp out your big threats and things like that. And it's not really about immediately comboing off things like that. So I think it's potentially very, very good in that deck. But yeah, I mean, this is just a Druid card. And if it doesn't work in Druid, then I don't really seeing it working elsewhere. RIP LPG.
Yeah.
Maybe I just like it because like Nostradamus is one of my favorite cards, and he reminds me of that, and like works well in the same deck. So I just want Nostradamus to work. So I'm hopeful about Denathrius.
I just feel like the flavor of like endlessly infusing all of these things that die, like it makes sense. The battle cry itself is a little bit underwhelming, but the endlessly infusing kind of makes.
For me, the interesting part of the battle cry is that he has lifesteal as well. So like that's like flavorful for him being the vampire type character as well. So like I think that separating the battle cry from the lifesteal is not like I don't know, not something I'm personally willing to do. I think that that's a part of it, and that like makes it more interesting to me as well, because you can use it just as like a board clear heal type situation, even if it's not closing out the game.
Yeah. All right. It does continue the trend though of these like really expensive neutral cards that only see play in one class in Wild, because one class gets 20 mana on turn 5 and the other classes don't, which is a little bit not cool, but at least it's seeing play somewhere, right? All right. We've got another location here. Let's talk about Rogue. 2 mana, 2 durability location. Sinstone Graveyard. Summon a 1/1 stealth ghost. The ghost has +1/+1 for each other card you've played this turn. So, Corb, I know back in the day, way back in the day, you played some Baitweed Rogue. So basically some Wild Miracle Rogue that churned out huge Edwins and Biteweeds this just seems like a much better biteweed, and also indicates we might be getting some Miracle Rogue support this expansion as well. So how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm loving it. Just like the Beast Hunter support, you know, I love that this location. This is like a little appetizer. You know, we're getting Miracle Rogue. You know, I love the Baitweed deck so much, and like you said, it's so much better. Like the fact that you can just like throw this out and just like preload the mana and then just completely pop off. The Stealth Ghost. I mean, even if they silence it, it doesn't actually lose the stats, right? Because it just keeps the it keeps whatever the base stats are. So it only loses the stealth. Very, very, very excited about this. I really like this. I'm looking forward to playing some more Edwin and Graveyard Rogue. I don't know. The fact that it's not a spell is perhaps like a slight downside. For the locations in general, I think it's fine. But in Rogue specifically, not being able to like prep it out and things like that, or tutor it with Swindle is kind of a little bit of a bummer. But I mean, it's not like you could tutor the Baitweed anyway. But either way, I'm really looking forward to this one. This is already at the top of my theory crafting, and we've only seen like 25, 30 cards or something.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's high on this card, because I love it. First of all, like the Edwin cute rogue deck is one of my all-time favorites. Just jamming that, now having another threat, so that like if the opponent's running silence, for instance, or if they just set up like a singular taunt, they can't get through it. Where I'm really excited for this though is in a Null rogue, because if you're running Sonya with Null, you have an infant board clear for 0 mana. You can set this up on turn 2, or not necessarily on turn 2. You can set this up early. Then the opponent plays a board. You play Sonya Null endlessly until you clear their entire board. Then you just press this button and you've got yourself like a 26/26 stealth minion that you can bash the opponent in the face with the next turn. If they happen to clear it, it's okay, because you already shadow stepped your Sonya. You're ready to go again next turn, and next time they have a board, you just do the same thing. It's one of my favorite things to do right now, is to just like endlessly send nulls back to hand and back at my opponent's board with the help of Sonya. And so doing that with the Sandstone Graveyard is going to give like a legitimate win condition to that deck, because like earlier this week I was playing that same deck with Pogo Hopper just because I needed something to close out the game. This is that thing. Like I think that could be a legitimate deck coming forward. It was already being played quite a bit in like a Secret Rogue package, just to deal with Big Shaman when that was, you know, running rampant, because it was legitimately one of the only things that could clear a Big Shaman board before they killed you. And so like I think there's some potential there.
I'm just imagining now, just like I guess it does require your opponent to have a bunch of health on board though, right? Like that's the limitation of that.
Like this is the wild format.
Yeah, I
didn't want to say it, but yeah, you're right. So
the biggest issue is sometimes just killing off that first null. But once you get that first null gone, like you're usually okay.
Off to the races, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, what you guys are saying is this location is super spicy.
This is my favorite one revealed yet, and I think it's the most interesting. Like it's not just do something a card that we've already seen does. I mean, it's kind of like an Edwin, but like I don't know, it's a little bit more interesting than some of the other ones in my opinion. So I'm just hyped for it in general, even if it doesn't live up to my hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I'm excited when they like clarified that the stats can't be silenced off or anything like that. Like that was a huge buff to the card and stuff like that. So yeah, and I think with that we've seen how many locations now? We've seen like 8 out of the 10 locations, and so Rogue One I think looking the most promising or exciting at least so far. Okay, I say that we do have another location that was revealed. It's the Demon Hunter location. We're not really going to talk about it because for some reason they revealed this before they revealed the card type that comes with it. And so the Demon Hunter location is a 3-mana location with 2 durability called Relic Vault that says the next relic you play this turn, cast twice. And so these are not Rafam relics. These are not Queen Ashara relics. These are new things that are unique to this expansion that are not going to be revealed until later this week. But what we do know is like we believe they are spells. They're a very specific subtype of spells. And with Demon Hunter, they're going to cast twice with this relic. And so we'll save, I guess, discussion for this until next episode once we actually know what the relics are and we can kind of properly evaluate it, which leaves us with maybe the coolest, most unique card I think we've ever seen in Hearthstone. Talking about the legendary warrior weapon / creature minion thing, Ramornia Living Blade. So this is a 7 mana 4/10 with Rush. After this attacks, equip it. And so then it becomes a weapon. And the weapon, after you attack, this transforms back into a minion. And the super unique thing about this card is it keeps enchantments that you have, right? So if you hand buff this minion while it's in your hand, right? Let's say you play a conditioning and give it +2/+2. It'll come down as a 6/12 minion. And then you attack into, let's say, a 1/1 hyena from the beast hunters that you're really scared about. Loses 1 health. And then it'll come back to your... it'll become a weapon, and it'll have 6 attack and 11 durability. You'll swing, it'll lose the durability, it'll come back as a 6/10. If you give it charge, right, with the warrior card charge, it'll keep charge after it turns back into a minion in the same turn. So you can do a lot of super sweet stuff with it. Super unique card. I don't think we've seen anything like this ever before. So how are you guys feeling about it?
I mean, I don't care how good it is. It's just cool. Like, because of all the reasons that you just described. There is a minion that like swaps the stats of minions in your hand. So you could play that before this, give it 10 attack, then drop a charge on it. You attack with the weapon, or you attack with it as a minion. It turns into a weapon. You hit him in the face for another 12. That's 24. It turns back into a minion. It still has charge. Hits him in the face. That should be 36. And then, I mean, you can't attack again as a weapon because your hero's already attacked, but the opponent should be dead by then. So, like, GG, you win. Even, it's got some fun OTK potential. It's got really interesting, like, potential just with interactions with different cards, like mind controlling this, stealing it with Cobalt Sticky Finger. Like, there's just so much potential to think about with what you can do with this card, and like it's cool. It's kind of like Renathal, where it's just like it's doing something that breaks Hearthstone or completely different than what we've seen in Hearthstone, and I like the creativity involved in designing a card like this. And also, like, I mean, we haven't seen the card in play yet, but like the engineering execution of having the card be able to shift between 2 different states like seamlessly, like if they're able to pull that off, that's pretty sweet too. Like, especially while maintaining all of its enchantments, like Meow said.
I'm gonna be real. I think this card is probably gonna be the most bugged card in history, like on launch. I think that's pretty likely. But hopefully that I don't know. It's hard to get mad before something happens, but like Roffle said, this is very different, and it's a unique card, and so I wouldn't be surprised if a few interactions here and there do some very, very funky, weird stuff. But yeah, there's just in general, there's like some pretty cool things that can happen. Like, I don't know, like Galakron, give it a +4/+4 buff, or is this the Odd Warrior, Fabled Odd Warrior win condition? Like, did we find it eventually? I don't know. I think it's super sick. The charge interaction is very funny, and I'm sure that'll be something that a lot of players and streamers gravitate towards, because that'll feel very, very satisfying to pull off. But just in general, like in hand buff decks and things like that, it's so hard to evaluate, but I think it's probably very, very promising, right? Like, at minimum, it'll be trade, weapon, big hit, like a lot of stats. You maintain a lot of the health because your durability only goes down by 1, obviously, right? So it's like such a minor thing that you're still left with this really threatening big body that presents so much pressure the following turn. So I like it. Super spicy and unlike anything we've seen before, and that's always exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like, for 7 mana, it's essentially a Ragnaros worth of damage that you can split up, right? Like, only 4 of it can go face, but like, if you have something to attack into, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah, I I will say I've seen a lot of streamers and content creators asking devs very specific questions in order to try to break this card. They're just like, we didn't try that in playtesting. Let me test that now, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which has been pretty funny the past couple days. I think one of the cutest interactions I saw was with Power Word Feast. So like if you steal this as a priest and you play Power Word Feast on this, and you end turn as a weapon, it will restore full durability as well.
It will.
Yeah. Which is
okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to work like that, but like if you end turn with this as your weapon, it'll heal back up to 12 durability. So that the next turn you get to go again. Which is super weird, but again, these are the fringe things that we're talking about, right? And it seems really sweet. You guys have already kind of talked about all the sweet stuff with it, right? And like just like what makes it such a unique card. And I'm super excited to mess around with it. We've never seen anything like it, and it's got to be breakable, abusable, fun in Wild somehow. So that being said, those are the 6/5 new cards this week, and so next week we'll be talking about like 30 more. Just looking at the website, there are 30 cards that we're going to be talking about next week minimum. So tune in for that. But for the second half of the episode here, we're gonna take a little bit of a walk back through time. And so we do this every expansion where we take a look back at our predictions, and we're gonna do predictions for the next expansion. Later on after the reveal season is ended, but we always take a stab at what we think are the strongest cards in a new expansion. What do we predict is going to be the most busted, and what we're looking forward to the most. And so now we're going to take a little bit of a look back and see exactly how right, how wrong we were, and who exactly we get to laugh at for their let's just, their dumb decisions. Let's just not say it lightly. So let's start with our top 5 strongest cards. And you're going to see a lot of overlap here, except you might notice a couple of notable cards. And by a couple, I mean one very noticeable card missing from a certain somebody's list. Throwing you under the bus already. So Roffle's top 5 strongest. You want to go ahead and just read yours out?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a notable card missing on one person's list. How about a notable one missing from all of our lists? Nobody had Switcheroo in their top 5. And I think we all dramatically underestimated how bonkers that combo ended up being, because we were essentially held hostage for the first week or two of the expansion by that and the unnerfed Kael'thas, which we called that one, but the switcheroo we kind of missed the boat on that one. So that said, I mean, this expansion felt a little bit face up in terms of the power level. It seemed kind of obvious to rate. So I have 5 good hits here, but it, even in hindsight, it seemed pretty obvious at the time. So I had Radar Detector as number 1, kind of single-handedly brought back Mech Paladin and is kind of carrying it. I think it's an underplayed deck. Next I have Mecha Shark. Did the same thing for Mech Mage. I've had a lot of success with Mech Mage. I think that it's a very strong deck, very underplayed, just for its relative power level. Aquatic Form was number 3. Fairly obvious choice. Druid doing Druid things. Druid getting more card draw, getting more selective card draw, and it is very good for 0 mana. 4th, I have Swordfish. Yeah, that card's still very broken. It is kind of the thing. You notice very much the difference between a Pirate Rogue opening that has Swordfish and doesn't have Swordfish, right? Because you're alive on turn 5 or 6. So Swordfish is a pretty bonkers card. It's very easy to activate. It's very large amounts of damage hitting you for the 3 turns that it's equipped. And then finally I had Okani, which again was kind of cheating in that one because we did get to actually play with it before the expansion release, but it's kind of become a staple disruption tool in both Reno decks as well as Shudderwalk Shaman. So it's just kind of good for slower decks that want to limit what the opponent is able to do.
Yep. All right, Corb, your top 5 strongest.
All right, my top five, and again, there's a lot of overlap here, except for one card. So I had Radar Detector, yep. Fillet Fighter, obviously Fillet Fighter ended up being very, very good, pretty clear. Handmaiden, which didn't really make an insane impact, I think, so far in Wild. It's obviously like pretty good in the right deck, but a lot of those decks haven't been amazing. Maybe if Switcheroo was still around, we could be having a conversation about Giants Priest to this day, but Switcheroo, taken out back and nerfed. Akani was my fourth. And then fifth, I had Amalgam of the Deep. I think Amalgam of the Deep has proven to be like, maybe top five is a little bit much, but my main thing about Amalgam was always just how absurdly splashable it would be in a variety of archetypes. And, it's popped up in the mech decks and this other stuff here and there. So maybe a little bit of a reach, but maybe if I could do a do-over, Amalgam or something, or Handmaiden would, pop out. Swordfish, come on in. I'm sure I thought Swordfish was good. Again, I can't remember the episode. I probably gave it like an honorable, but yeah, a little bit of a miss not having Swordfish in the top five, I think.
Yeah, how dare you? It's not like all of us, like Roffle said, missed on Switcheroo either, so don't worry about it. Radar Detector for me, Aquatic Form for me, Swordfish for me, Okani for me, and then I had Handmaiden as well. Like you mentioned, I think the big thing with Handmaiden is even after Switcheroo got banned, we still had Drekthar, right, for a little bit, and so it wasn't seeing any play while Drekthar was still a card, and so I don't think people have experimented with it just until just recently. And I do think it's one of those cards with the potential to get a lot better, right, as time goes on. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I mean, like there are a few that we can talk about that we missed, like that we didn't mention at all, that I think are at least noteworthy. Kind of just like looking at the list of the expansion, I think Gigafin is something that has had a much bigger impact than we probably expected. The Sea Devil interaction. I can't remember again like how much we talked about that before the actual set came out. But I think it's been one of the most impactful cards by far.
Yeah, I think we talked about it probably in combination of just like regular Murloc Warlock, but not really just like as a splashable package index.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think we talked about Gigafin is just like a standalone strong card and probably would be run in a Reno lock, but we didn't necessarily think about just how strong it is, how consistent it is, because it's like life tap, and like life tap makes it so that you can get the stinger down, and if you're not an even Warlock, you also have the Gorlock Ravager, which we kind of missed as an option to help with that. So I think we rated Gigafin in isolation, which is a strong card in isolation, but then like it gets even better when you play it on turn 4.
Yeah, and then the other one that I think is worth mentioning is Savara. Savara basically bring Quest Mage back from the brink of death, and honestly, causing a lot of other players, heroes to blow up and die as well. So Savara is obviously, it's an absurd early game high roll in the Quest Mage deck, and not something I think we'll thinking about too much, because Quest Mage wasn't really that established at the time, and sometimes easy to overlook just what kind of impact one card can have, just even as a legendary. In a sort of fringe archetype like that.
Yeah, good points though. So moving on from our top 5 strongest cards predictions, just let's talk about Colossal Minions in general, and how you feel like their impact in Wild has been as kind of like the big thing from Voyage into the Sunken City. I know we've alluded to this in previous episodes, but really like outside of Gigafin and Neptulon, we really haven't seen a whole lot of impact, I feel like, from Colossal Minions. Unless I'm completely missing anything.
I wouldn't quite say that. I mean, we have Hydrolodon single playing Beast Hunter right now. We also have Gaia as kind of like a pretty stable part of Mech Mage, and even at 8 mana, doesn't really cost 8 mana, and it's actually been pretty good. Leviathan, is another one in Mech Paladin, and then splashed in Reno Mage. Reno Paladin. So I think those are all the ones, but that's about half, right? Like that's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean.
Glug. I forgot about Glug. Glug and Big Shaman. I mean, again, some of these cards have been buffed, and so it's kind of hard to remember, just because a lot of them were changed instantly. But yeah, Glug's another one as well.
Yeah, and if you compare that to something like either quest lines or the hero cards from the previous expansion cycle, like I'd say that we would consider those to be a success if half of them were, played in the format. So yeah, I think that I was skeptical of the colossal minions, and I think that they proved to be a little bit better than anticipated. I mean, just think of how frequently, if you're playing Queen Ashara, you're choosing the Horn in most situations with her, right? Like, so like they are on average of good quality. It's just the ones that missed pretty hard is I think the bummer. So you've got kind of a few classes just like looking on the sidelines watching others have fun with the colossal minions.
Nellie's another one as well that was looking like, I know that Pirate Warrior wasn't very good, but Nellie was, even in Wild, was still one of the strongest cards in Pirate Warrior. We didn't quite get to see Zillag, but again, Zillag had to be buffed to kind of get there. But it's kind of like I was saying, didn't really expect these to make as much of an impact, right? Like, generally, I remember personally just being very, very down on the Colossal in general. Just because expensive cards in Wild doesn't make sense. But they've actually made a much, much bigger impact than the average card, right? Just as a collective, right? Like over half of them have seen significant amount of play, and not half of the cards in a set see significant amount of play in Wild. So a really, really massive success rate for the Colossal cards in general.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend like these were intended puns when it came to colossal minions. We're just gonna pretend like you were that smart and funny. Yeah, it's kind of surprising, and I'm kind of glad that they did have a little bit of a splash, a successful splash here. Okay, let's take a little bit of a move on from Voyage to the Sunken City. We also had a bunch of reversions that took place, right? That coincided with Voyage to the Sunken City, and so here I'm going to talk about. We had a whole list of cards that got reverted, and we wanted to talk, or we talked about cards that we were like super excited for. And thought that they were going to be impactful, and so I kind of want to just run through them. And outside of Kael'thas, which had to get re-nerfed, we all know the Kael'thas incident. I want to talk about just the impact, or maybe the lack of impact, of some of these reverted cards. So we wanted to talk about stuff like Scavenger's Ingenuity, 2 mana, draw a beast, give it +3/+3 in Hunter. Kael'thas, Crab Rider got reverted. Saw play for like a week and a half, and I don't think I've seen it since. Moarg Artificer, the 2/4 demon that doubles damage from spells. Il'gynoth, the Lifesteal Demon Hunter legendary. Bogspine Knuckles, Dreadlord's Bite, Guardian Animals, Jandis Barov, High Abyss Allura, and Lorekeeper Polkelt. Roffle, you gave me a look already. I don't remember what it was for, but go for it.
Crab Rider is nuts still. Yeah, Crab Rider is very good. Like that's brought back some Murloc archetypes. Like Murloc Shaman is very happy to have that card back. It's still good in like a even Paladin or called Call to Arms Paladin. So I think it's still a good card. But I think in general you're right. I think that like a lot of these we were like, ooh, maybe don't do that, and then they came back and they're just fine, right? Like I said that Lorekeeper Polkelt was probably fine, and I think I was in the minority there. And yeah, it's like I think that our memory of how strong cards were is overshadowed by how strong cards have become. I guess is really what it comes down to, and how much faster things are now. We were definitely right about Kael'thas, but that was like that one was pretty obvious. I think that the rest of these, looking back, it's like, yeah, of course they were in hindsight. Of course they're going to kind of flop, but that it wasn't the case at the time. I think we all knew that like the Il'gynoth combo was never going to be a thing in Wild. I think we brought that up to talk about just so that we could reference how it wouldn't be a thing, and we were right, but that was pretty predictable, I think.
Yeah, a little bit sad. I really had my hopes up for Guardian Animals, like, because I remember when it came out, I was like so excited that Druid was going to do something that wasn't just combo and ramp, and then I played it and I tried so hard to make it work, and for so long it was so bad, which kind of sucked. So a little bit disappointed by that. But I have seen a lot of poke out recently. People have started putting it in free shaman, and it's felt really good. In that deck, it puts Shuttle Walk, your Grumble, and your 2 Snowfall Guardians at the top of your deck, which is and a Loatheb if you still need it. So it's felt pretty good in specifically that deck as well. But there was like 20 or so reversions. We didn't name all of them, but it really felt like not super impactful, which it makes me even more sad when we do get nerfs because of standard. Because then in a year and a half, when they get reverted for wild, it looks like they might not be playable, which is a little sad to see.
Yeah, I'd rather have the cards back in their original form, regardless. So I think it's fine. What this does say though is that maybe Corb and I have been giving you too hard a time about the Paladin cards, and some of those could have been reverted, and maybe it wouldn't have been as game breaking as we thought. So, we'll think about that next time around.
Yeah, it's definitely the takeaway that I'm kind of looking over the list, right, and saying, okay, maybe I need to recalibrate and just be a little, more willing to see shit hit the fan. Just like bring it all back. Like, it'll be fine. Probably not many are gonna make a huge impact. I will say on Crab Rider, on the Paladin thing, aggro Paladin right now, I think, is one of the absolute meta breakers in the format. That deck is really, really good, and so I don't want to hear, not any impact. I think it's waiting in the wings right now, and I wouldn't be surprised for it to kind of catch on. Although we are in a reveal season, the meta development does tend to slow down a lot right as we approach the new expansion. But yeah, I think Evocation is one we didn't mention, but I think that is also, again, talking about Savara in Quest Mage, again, this wasn't really a deck, and then Evocation is now a very real thing with the Finley in particular. So that's like another meaningful change that happened.
All right, and so that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode. A little bit of a shorter one, but we're saving ourselves for next week, where we're gonna have to talk about 30 cards in rapid fire succession. But I do want to, take the time here while we have it to thank Roffle and Corb and all the viewers for tuning in, making the 100th episode something that felt like it was always going to happen rather than something that felt like a dream. So Roffle and Corb, thank you so much for joining me. And thanks to all the viewers that listen week after week. Roffle and Corb, let the people know where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Roffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RoffleHS.
And you can find me on Twitch at Corbett and Twitter at Corbettgames, and also YouTube, Corbettgames, where there will be a card reveal, one of the 30 cards coming out for next episode. So Corbettgames on YouTube for that one, guys.
Yeah, we promise that all of our reactions are going to be genuine. Corb hasn't leaked anything, so all of our reactions on socials and stuff is going to be, genuine reactions to that.
The way that you're saying it sounds like you have had it leaked.
I haven't. I want to make sure that people don't think that we have.
Because I haven't.
Say that it's not leaked.
Right.
But, it's like, why would an innocent person say that? What do you mean?
Right. Like, I'm suspicious of you now. I think Meowth is involved.
I was trying to not be suspicious. I don't know how to be suspicious. Nobody tells me anything anyways, so I don't know how to... Whatever.
I need to get my magnifying glass and deerstalker cap on. I have a mystery to solve,
just
and
like
it's
your
whether
Photoshop
or not,
for Twitter. Oh.
I know, it's whether or not famous Wild Hearthstone streamer Get Meowth got early access to the card or not.
Yeah. Oh, the real mystery here. But make sure you guys are all following Corb's YouTube channel for his reveal. I'm excited for that. Congrats again. But you can find me on all my socials at GetMeowth and live on Twitch 3 or 4 days a week. Appreciate you guys listening week after week all the way to the end. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you guys again next time. Later.